I'm Ollie. I'm not a robot, believe it or not, even though I look like a robot in the video sometimes.
You are a little bit robotic, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, what she said.
Hi and welcome to our channel. We have been here now for over 4 years, looking for property 4 years ago. So we decided to make another video, a more up-to-date video on looking for property in 2022. And with us we have Oli and Jana, and they are right now looking for property. So, can I ask you some questions, please?
No.
Of course. Can I know a little bit about your story and why you decided to move here?
Hello, I'm Ollie. I'm 39 today, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday, Oli!
And this is Jana, my wife.
Hello.
And then we have Zeus, who's behind us here, our little whippet that we travel with. And essentially, we've been traveling for about 6 or 7 months now in our van that we converted in the UK before we left. And we decided about 4 years ago we wanted to have a change in our lives and we wanted to do something different, and we were inspired by people like Luke and Sarah and their story. And then we decided to give it a go and do a bit of travelling first.
Yes, we did. And with the pandemic happening, I think what worked quite well for us was that I could continue working online, hence traveling across Europe, spending time with family that we have living in Germany, Austria and Slovakia, meant that we could continue our travels and having some income coming in.
And that is super important, because that was one of the things we were struggling with when we got here and bought a piece of land. No income, so that was one of the hardest things.
It can be
to
really
decide what to do.
I
Hence
think,
our channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, have a plan.
Before you, have a plan.
Have a plan. So we planned this 4 years ago. Within the last 4 years we've had the pandemic hit, and then also the Brexit rules came into play as well. We've had to deal with those as we've been going along. We bought the van 2 years ago and we converted him and then set off after selling our property in the UK. This is just our story of what we want to do and how we want to do it, and what we've experienced along the way of searching for properties in Portugal, in Central Portugal mostly.
Hopefully you will find our experience helpful, although we do appreciate that people have different experiences. So once you pull, I suppose, all that information together, hopefully if you are planning to make a move, it will provide you with some useful information.
You have a surprise 5 useful tips, right?
Well,
we
5.
do!
I think there's more than 5, we haven't actually counted them, but there is some useful tips at the end, so wait to the end and you can see what our useful tips are, our top tips.
Yeah. Now can you tell me why you chose Central Portugal?
At the beginning of our planning phase 4 years ago, we decided that we would start looking at different places: New Zealand, Malta, Croatia, Germany, Slovakia, because we've got family in both of those places as well, and New Zealand, we've got family there as well. Hi guys. And then also we wanted to see where the best place for us would be and what we wanted to achieve basically, and where we could get the best bang for our buck, and to see where there's going to be like-minded people around that want to do the same sort of projects or the same sort of things that we want to do. I think in the end New Zealand was very high up on the list, and Central Portugal was just a little bit closer for us and also more financially viable for our budget. In Central Portugal we get more land and more arable land, which we could make into something in the future, like a farm or like an off-grid homestead like Luke and Sarah.
To help us to be a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah, and be better earthlings.
It's all about
and
that.
Stewards of the earth.
Being kinder to the planet.
Yeah, that's right, yes. Also, the positives about Central Portugal, and why we chose Central Portugal over the rest of Portugal after our research, the Algarve is just going to be out of our price range. Braga and to the north of Portugal is supposed to be a little bit more hilly, and it's supposed to be a beautiful landscape, but there's more like-minded people and stuff in Central Portugal, and there seems to be more arable land and stuff there that's in our price range. It's made us make that decision to come to Central Portugal itself. It's not all just positives. The fuel prices are quite expensive. It's like 160, 170 for a litre of diesel, or up to 2 euros sometimes, depending where you are. The food prices are very expensive.
Which was quite
compared to
surprising
the UK.
for us.
Yeah, it was quite surprising. Compared to the UK, the general food prices costs are quite expensive, but what we found anyway, and the price of second-hand vehicles and second-hand goods in general are
super high.
super high, aren't they?
Super high.
Yeah.
So I think we've been hearing a lot from Oli, Jana. It's time to ask you a question. When you're looking for land, what are you looking for?
So it's interesting. For us, on top of the list was community to begin with, wasn't it? Yeah. But what we found through our experience is that people are very friendly in Portugal, and that includes the Portuguese people, but also the wider expat community. And we had actually found that we could make friends very easily here. And therefore, although it is still on our priority list, it's not the top priority. I would say access, so when we are looking for the land, is definitely something that we are looking for and needs to be right, because we have 6-ton Mercedes Vario truck, so sometimes some of the roads can be really narrow, and therefore we need to really ensure that access is right for us.
Access is also important because of the fire risk, so you want to be able to access a piece of land and also be able to escape from a piece of land in case there's a fire coming up, and they come up quite quickly apparently when it happens. We was talking to Alex from De Pieper, and he's experienced a forest fire out here. So you want to be able to escape away from your land to keep yourself safe, yourself and your family safe. It's also mentioned in Luke and Sarah's other video, the 5 top tips in Portugal, which I don't want to step on their toes too much and talk about.
That's fine.
So the other thing that we're looking for in a piece of land, or what we're on a search for at the moment, is size-wise, 1 to maybe 5 hectares of land, depending what sort of land, and maybe a rustic article would be the best.
They saw 17 hectares and said, no, that is not for us.
That's a little bit too much.
Yeah, a little bit for us is too much. We don't necessarily want to have animals straight away, or we don't necessarily want to do a big growing project or anything like that straight away, because we want to travel in our van as well. So we're looking for a ruin of maybe 35 square meters or bigger. A granite stone ruin would be lovely. Yeah, water is vital at the moment, a must.
It is extremely important.
Yeah, with the drought that's happening at the moment.
Another few aspects also would be having a little bit like fruit trees, which would be really nice, and of course have some native trees that would provide us with a little bit of shade, because we haven't experienced the summer fully yet, but it is supposed to be really hot.
The other thing to consider in Portugal, and definitely Central Portugal here, is it's a lot hillier than I expected at all, and it's a lot more forest on the actual central middle bit itself, and that obviously comes with other problems of some of it might not be arable. There'll be a lot of boulders on the land. There's other things to consider when you're looking at the land. So you might have a hectare, you might have 5 hectares, but you only can use 2 hectares of it to actually to propagate crops or do what you want to do on it. So you need to take that into consideration as well when you're picking land. Maybe for us it's better to go a maximum of 5 hectares, depending on what sort of land and what location it is.
You never know though. We might speak to you and Sarah look in like 5 months and they'll be with 20 hectares.
After all, we wanted 1 hectare and we ended up with 17. So
this is it. You just never know, do you?
You never know.
No.
Never say never. The other thing is initially for us, because we want to do a little bit more travelling, is we don't necessarily want to keep livestock on our land all the time. So we have a little bit more freedom. We can use our lovely van and explore the rest of Portugal rather than just being in Central Portugal all the time. So when we have breaks and holidays from our project or whatever we're doing on our restoration of a ruin, we would go and look at the Algarve, which is supposed to be beautiful, which we haven't seen, and north of Portugal as well.
And we have a thing now, Jana, when she needs some goat company, she's gonna come up
She
and
can
get
get
her
a
goat.
goat face.
Yeah, this is it.
And don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and the like if you're liking this. While Jana's finding another place to put Zeus, Just remember, stay for the end of the video. They're going to share some top tips with you guys. Okay, so that is what you're looking for when searching for a piece of land.
Yeah.
And what are the methods you are going to be using, or you're using actually?
Yeah, so the methods, so at the moment we've seen over 40 properties here in Central Portugal.
A lot.
And then the reality of searching for the properties online and when you're abroad to actually come in here is very different. You hear stories of people who've seen like over 30 properties and stuff like that, and you just wonder why, how come so many properties, and when you get here it makes total sense, because you sometimes don't see the advertised property that you're going to see. Sometimes it's totally different, sometimes there's because it's just rustic land you're going to look at, so for the Portuguese people sometimes it's okay for just planting some olive trees on and stuff, but it might have like a big electricity pylon through. They don't necessarily want to live there themselves, or they don't want to restore the ruins and stuff. So for them it doesn't really matter if it's got a, you know, like an electricity pylon going through or something like that. But for people like us and other people that are looking at rustic plots, it's an important factor to have, you know.
You don't want that in your backyard.
No. So some of the methods that I've been using to find the properties that we've been viewing are mostly online to start with. When I was in the UK, I was just looking at prices of places out here to start off with, or maybe about 2 years ago, using the sort of websites that Luke and Sarah were suggesting, which were Idealista, Pure Portugal, and then there's the actual estate agencies themselves. There is a lot of them now in Castelo Branco, the city itself. And what we've found recently, over the last 3 months, so our search has been sort of just before Christmas or just after Christmas until now, has been that there's been quite an influx of people requesting information about these properties and that are advertised online, and they're maybe not up to date or as up to date as possible as they could be online.
Absolutely. We had an experience where we contacted the estate agent inquiring about property, only to find out that the property was already sold, although it's still been advertised. So it's something to bear in mind.
And not just recently sold. When we found it in the village, it looked like the people had been there for about 6 months because they had a new roof and everything on it. So yeah, so it just tells you about some of the websites and stuff that are not really up to date. And if their own estate agency websites aren't up to date, then third-party websites like Idealista, OLX and Pure Portugal maybe aren't always as up to date as possible, because if they're struggling to keep their own sites up to date, they'll obviously struggle to keep those up to date as well. I think essentially the message there is they're very busy at the moment. There is demand for the properties, which is also having a knock-on effect to drive the prices up a little bit. But don't necessarily get sucked into the panic of trying to buy a property really quickly, because that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to go in there and then they're putting pressure on you, telling you, oh, there's more people to come to view the property. It's a standard tactic from the estate agents. Take your time, chill out, make sure you're making the right decision, and make sure you've got the connection with the land. I think if you're going to stand up and wake up every morning and try and work on a piece of land and you haven't got that connection there, it's going to be very hard for you to try and fall in love with the land later on. Or, you know, so I think that emotional connection is important with a piece of land that you buy or wherever you decide to settle down.
So true.
But also you need to sort of ensure that the paperwork is all in place. We fell in love with one property and found that on the deeds it would never actually fully belong to us, and therefore we had decided against it, didn't we?
Yeah.
And there's so much like this happening. Like I think every couple we meet has the similar experience.
This is
So it is very common.
Yeah,
Right,
a lot of people are going through the same experience online with when they're trying to buy properties. They're advertising only sort of 3/4 or half of the actual Rustic article itself. Hello, Molly. And essentially what happens then is you will go on the deeds of that article when you go to buy it, and you'll be on there with other people, other family members. You may be all right with that risk. Personally, ourselves, we're not quite happy with that. We'd prefer to have the whole article to ourselves, because if there's a ruin on that article, then they would have whatever percentage of that ruin. Doesn't matter if it's on your bit or their bit. It would belong. They would have a right to to dwell in
whatever
it.
percentage.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is the first time I heard of this problem.
Yeah.
So
it is, isn't it?
it's something to keep an eye on, and just make sure that you are completely happy with the purchase, and you don't get any surprises when you go and sign the documents at the end. So you need a good solicitor to check it all out. We'll talk about a solicitor later.
And pictures, like any pictures that they show are not really, sometimes you can't tell what you're going to be looking at until you get there.
Absolutely, very good point as well, because sometimes the pictures are not the best. They might necessarily show a true picture of there isn't a property, so if you sort of feel 50-50 about the images, go and view it, because it may be actually worth it, worth the visit.
Definitely. It's not like in the UK where they have like a professional photographer go out and take photos, and everything will be staged lovely, everything will be, but it's not like that at all. Most of the time it's just an estate agent himself will go out and just do it on his phone, and have a varying different skills and different telephones and stuff. So it's definitely worth going to see a property, different types of properties as well. Even if you think, oh, that's not quite right for us, I don't think it will be, just go and see it, and then just to see how you feel about it, because you might change your mind with some of your criteria. It's good to view a good wide range of different stuff.
And for us, I think it gave us a really good idea as to what we are looking for as well, didn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So viewing different pieces of land, although 40 is a high number, but it actually helped us as well to realize what it is that we actually really want.
We viewed around 50 pieces of land, and this was the one that had just one photo on it of bushes. That's all it was. You know, and then
that just
we had this.
Exactly.
It's insane. Eh?
The last method is to go for searching for properties in Portugal is to go to the junta, if it's a small village, or to the Camera and seeing the president or the president's secretary or something like that, and seeing if there's anywhere you can display it on a notice board, your information. Or like we had with one president, he led us to somebody else, and he then took us to see 7 properties the next morning. And the Portuguese people, I just want to say, were the most loveliest, friendliest people that we've ever met. They're so welcoming.
Totally agree with
that.
Yeah. So Jana and Oli are going to give some links, which I'm going to put in the description, of sites that they look at, and some helpful links that you can go to.
Once you've searched online, or you've gone to the properties, once you're at the actual viewings themselves of the properties, so you're walking around with the estate agent or the local guide or whoever's showing the property, there's obviously going to be the communication problem. We don't speak Portuguese at all. A little bit, we can say like good morning and the basics, but not enough to know about like if there's enough water in the summer and what the seasons are like and what the area is like, to ask these sort of questions. So we advise you to take an interpreter or a translator. With the younger generation, they seem to speak English, which is nice. There's a lot of French spoken, so if you speak French, that's also quite a popular language over here. So when you're on the viewings themselves, we've had instances where we've been around and looked around a property for 45 minutes, had a look at a ruin, and sort of deciding whether it meets our criteria, and then out of the blue, the estate agent calls the owner and asks a simple question about the property, and then they say, oh no, that ruin's not for sale. The land that's for sale is like a 10-minute walk down the track, a further 10-minute walk down the track, even though the pictures on the advert were for that ruin that we were looking at. Be prepared for those sort of lovely surprises, and also the boundaries of the property are very important. You need to know where your boundaries are. You need to know if there's other plots of land inside of the boundary of the article that don't belong to you and stuff like that. So these are all good questions to ask when you're on the viewings themselves.
When you find a property that you think you might like, that covers like 80% of you, what you want, what is the next step? What are you doing?
Okay, so when you get the feeling, you get the butterflies in your belly and you think, this is it, this is where I want to spend the rest of my days. First thing we'd advise is to go either on a website or try and get the information from the junta or from the estate agent themselves, and you can get, we'll put a link for a website in our description, which basically you can search for the maps that outline all the rustic articles in the Castelo Branco region. Once you have that link, and you can work out what all of the Rustic articles are, what numbers they are, like how they're split up, and you can sort of try and overlay that onto a map, and you can see what you're getting basically, and where the borders are, and if it correlates to what the estate agent has told you.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
That is brilliant.
And usually it would have an indication of the property that's already on there, or wells as well.
Yeah.
So if it's overgrown property, it can be actually helpful to have those maps as well.
You can go back and see where the water was on the actual drawing if you're good with maps and stuff. If you can do a bit of map reading, you can see, okay, maybe there's a well there where there's loads of big bramble bushes and stuff. And you can,
that is awesome. No, we didn't have this back in, well, we didn't know about it. I don't know if it was here 4 years ago.
Yeah, the one thing to think about it is they're still doing all the drawings and stuff for the Fundau region. So if you're up in the Fundau region, there's no actual maps online, but if you're further down this Castello Branco region or district, then
they are available.
You're in luck,
Awesome.
because you can look at the maps online.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah. So
if you like map reading,
if you're any good with it, if you don't want to search online and try and find it yourself, is you can go to a solicitor. We've got Edna. She's a very good solicitor. That she's inquired about 2 different properties for herself, and are very reasonably priced and very good English spoken.
yes.
So if you guys want the details, just get in touch with us and we'll hand over the details for you.
Now, if our viewers want to contact you, do you have anywhere they can contact you on?
Yeah, we have an Instagram. It's called Fritz's Adventures, and Sarah's going to make a lovely thing here.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot
We did,
in this video.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any other questions that you want to ask them, they are going to be reading all the comments, so you can just pop a question in the comments below. And now I think it's time for the top tips.
I'll start with the first one. So my top tip number 1 would be to get a Portuguese number. So get a Portuguese phone number. The estate agents don't like calling foreign numbers, and a lot of them don't use WhatsApp or anything like that. So if you want them to call you back, you've got more of a chance if you get a Portuguese phone number.
Face-to-face contact, it's really a way to go in Portugal.
It's invaluable.
Absolutely, in order for you to get to know people, and really for the estate agents to know your face, so they know who they're speaking to, so build up that rapport and relationship that will hopefully, you know, get you more viewings.
If you can, we have the privilege of having a van, so we can park it anywhere, you know, within reason. We lived in the areas, we've parked in the areas in the towns that we think we like, for like maybe 3 days or 2 days at a time. We walk around, we use the local amenities, and we get to know the area and see if we like it. So that brings us on to tip number 4.
So tip number 4 is to make some little cards with your contact details. So when you go speak to estate agents or locals in the area, you will be able to give them your contact. You never know if it will give you a viewing of your potentially
your dream property. Yeah. So tip number 5 is to ensure that the article of land that you're buying, doesn't matter what sort of land it is, that you're going to be in when you sign for the deeds and you sign all the paperwork, to make sure you're going to be the 100% owner with yourself and your wife or whoever's signing the deeds.
And the last but not least, the tip number 6 is to be open-minded. Really enjoy the journey. Don't let the estate agents or the media pressurize you. You know, enjoy the journey. It needs to be really right for you. So take your time.
Okay, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
I know it was hard to do an interview because you were a little bit shy, as I was, but we all got over it.
We did.
I just want to say that I'm not normally a robot. It's just when you get a GoPro out, I become a robot.
Robot. Over here we have the road, and over here we have...
Put a little comment.
Put a little comment in the description below.
Comment. Listen to the robot man. Yeah, just keep in mind this is our experience and our journey. Yours might be totally different. You might have a different budget and a different experience totally. So yeah, good luck with your journey. Hopefully you find your place. Hopefully we find our place soon and we're able to update Luke and Sarah and let you know what happens with our journey. What am I supposed to do? I'm the one that walks around like a robot. At least you can't even speak. Right.
Well, hopefully this helps you guys in your search for your ideal property, for your dream piece of land in Portugal. And I think that is it from us for today.
Yes.
And if you want to see a little bit more, we cover a few more subjects because they didn't get into it because they don't want to overlap on our video. But I think you can go and watch this one next.